battery life. Good morning, Detroit. You are watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live on Wjzz Cool TV, streaming to you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public Schools superintendent, a former world-class athlete and conqueror of Olympic champions, a championship track coach, poet, newspaper columnist, longtime civil rights crusader, and the author of 6 Detroit-oriented books: The Poet Emperor of Earth, What Old Men Know, Creative Insubordination, The Will Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, and his explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run. And also look out for his forthcoming poetry book, Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs, a Detroit poetic epic. He also has a show on WCHB AM 1340, Detroit's gospel station, Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. That's Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. His books are available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, or just by calling Dr. Telford at 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Dr. John Telford has been called a legend and also a lightning rod for controversy. He has received the Detroit City Council Spirit of Detroit Award and the Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of the Champ Award. He was named Wayne State University's Alumnus of the Year in 2001, and a Detroit track was named for him. His website is www.alifeontherun.com, and his email address is drjohntelford@aol.com. That's drjohntelford@aol.com. Now, without further ado, I present to you that crusading old native Detroiter, Dr. John Telford.
Thank you, Dr. Sunanda Corrado, that superb anthropologist, that lady who has been doing such great teaching at Wayne County Community College.
Wayne County.
That's right.
That's right.
She's been an anthropologist there for 10 years.
Wow.
Can you believe?
Dangerously smart students at Wayne County.
Oh, yes, dangerously smart.
Undercounted and dangerously smart.
And a dangerously smart teacher for them as well. And she's been doing it for 10 years, and look at her. I mean, she looks like she's 17, so how could she have been doing it for 10 years? We have in the studio today on WJZZ, the John Telford Detroit Show, we have in the studio Mr. Dr. Nigel Jennings, who is, Nigel, I think I'm going to let you talk about yourself a little bit. Tell us about you.
Okay. Well,
and don't believe your lying eyes about him.
Well, no, I'm not a doctor. That's Dr. Thomas's.
I thought. Well, you're going to be one.
Oh.
You got an honorary doctorate today.
Yeah, we're giving you an honorary doctor. I thought.
You seem to be surrounded by doctors.
Yes. That is the goal, I suppose. But so I would suppose I am a amateur writer. As you mentioned, I did co-write a book with Dr. Thomas and another young woman by the name of Galen Laird. Don't Believe Your Lying Eyes, which is about narcissistic personality disorder.
Give me the book for a minute.
And narcissistic abuse, but I also do other forms of writing, storytelling, poetry is the main thing that I've been focusing on recently. And I also went to Wayne County. So
you've been an influence on me.
Grew up in the city, west side of the city. And I love the city. I love writing. That's the basics.
Obviously. What inspired you to become a poet?
Oh wow. Some of my educators from my past in elementary school and so on.
Sure. Me too. I had a lady named Hattie Spurk at Esterbrook Elementary School on Linwood and McGraw back in 44
Mm-hmm.
who got me started writing poetry, and I've been doing it ever since.
So I'm sitting between two acclaimed poets because Dr. Telford is also a poet in residence with Detroit Public Schools.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all need
Okay.
to talk some more.
I was also the Sharon Creative Arts Foundation prize poet. That was when I was
that's
teaching
great.
at Pershing many years ago. You know, they flew me to Connecticut to get that prize. But I've been a poet. You know, I'm an athlete, or I was an athlete, and I was and I am a social activist. But I'm basically a poet, and through my poetry, I do my social activism, and I have an idea that's what you are too.
Yeah, I typically tend to speak on different issues revolving around the city and just different political issues, and that don't really get a lot of awareness raised to them.
Right.
So I just typically tend to speak out on those kinds of things.
Well, without further ado, I'll start out with a poem. I'm going to start with a poem.
Okay.
If I can find a poem I wanted to start out with. This poem I call Zeitgeistian Wishes 3. Great fate, pray thee, I wish you'd free the seer in me, so I can see the wind and be the rain and know the starlit snow. You know, we educators wish that all of our students may someday soon become enabled to see the as yet unseen. Rain their accumulated knowledge upon the world and know the as yet unknown within the zeitgeist of the 21st century. So that was my initial poem, and now we're going to hear Nigel's initial poem.
Okay. I believe that mine will be much shorter, but
That was a short one.
okay.
Okay.
Freedom from the mainland through division. Acrimony connects rage via causeway. Angry lines, bitter maid sets center stage. Protests halt, assaults until submission.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. Okay.
That hurts.
You want to? Yeah. Okay, here's another one. My turn. Egress. The cleft in the cosmos. We need to encounter that cosmic extension in order to enter the seventh dimension.
Ooh, I like that.
Now, how many dimensions are there? Are there 3?
There
There are 4. You know, we got outer space, so that's the 4th dimension. But what about the 5th dimension? 6, 7. You know, I had a student named John Powell at Southeastern High School about 60 years ago. I was track coach there. I was his track coach too. John Powell became the national legal director of the ACLU, and he, a very bright kid. He's probably the brightest student I ever taught. John Powell uses no capital letters in his name. John A. Powell, and he speculated that there might be a 7th dimension, or a 77th dimension, or a 777th dimension. See, these are concepts that we don't address every day. You know, when we're sitting in our easy chair drinking our beer. You know?
At the U of M Natural History Museum, I think about a year and a half ago, they had an exhibit of origami, and now they're starting to look at origami, the art of origami, as a model for how time can fold upon itself.
Yes. Okay.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah, it is.
That's the new model for time.
Next poem.
Okay. Next poem. All right.
And this is Nigel Jennings, talented young poet, sharing his poetry on the John Telford Detroit Show on WJZZ this morning.
Okay. Independent youth and seeker of truth, a soothsayer, layered like his previous roots. Mayor of a city is proof. Hater of Italian suits. Made a way out of none, with words on the tip of his tongue. The honorary title given to him as a win by those who didn't want him to lose.
It's some heavy stuff. You know what? I want this kid. I'm calling him a kid. How old are you, Nigel?
38.
He's 38. Well, he's a kid
He's
to
a
me
kid.
because I'm
Yeah.
I'm 85. So you're a kid to me. But I want to see a book of poetry by Nigel Jennings. I want to see that.
It is definitely in the works.
Okay.
So pretty soon, actually. I hope to get it out pretty soon this year.
And Nigel bought my book. This is my book of poetry. What is my title? I can't remember. The Lifelong Poetic Prancings of Mad John. So Nigel bought my book, and now I'm going to buy Nigel's book. But I can't buy Nigel's book until Nigel has his book written. So Nigel, you got to do that book.
I do. I really do.
Very soon.
Very soon.
Very soon. Okay, here's another one. I call this one 1954 2021. Now, 1954 was 67 years ago. What happened in 1954? I'll be talking about that in this poem. Separate and unequal has an evil sequel. The devilish creation of racial segregation is utter subjugation and clear discrimination. So found Brown versus Board of Education. True reconciliation and total integration are needed in our nation. Therefore, may it escape the fatal final fate of God's annihilation. See, my poetry, Nigel, quite often it's either about females, or it's about athletes, or it's about what that poem's about. But we all have to address.
Yes.
We have to address civil rights. We have to address the lack thereof in this country because we still have many battles to fight, as you know very well.
Yes.
Okay, it's your turn.
Okay.
And then we're going to have Sunanda read one of her favorite poems.
One of my favorite poems. I'm not a poet here.
That's all right.
I'm a repressed academic writer.
Okay.
I'll cite your poems with pleasure.
No problem. Firefighter, father figure, burned alive by co-conspirators. Death made the news with no convictions. Victory denied for the family of the victim.
That's heavy, and that's of the poems you've read today in the show thus far. I like that one the best. I like that one. That one's got to go in the book. Okay, I think we need a commercial, and then we're going to have Sunanda do a poem.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. And you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show live to you, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please take the time to like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us. And thank you for watching Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And don't forget about Dig Thy Neighbor, Jazz and Poetry. It's coming up on Wednesday. I believe it's this Wednesday from 5 to 10 p.m. It's at the Ralston Artist Compound right here at the station, 19730. And we're going to have some backyard music. And it's starting July 8th. Bring the kid in you, but don't bring your kids, all right? Yeah, so please come out. It's an excellent way to end your week in Detroit on a beautiful summer night, meeting all kinds of people, all kinds of artists. I know that you performed at the last backyard barbecue, and it was just astounding.
Yes.
It was amazing. You've got a lot of talent for your delivery as well as for the words themselves.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, a poem from Sunanda.
Oh, so this is going to be a poem from Mirabai.
Who is that?
Mirabai is kind of like people say guru, but like a liberated soul, I'll speak more about Mirabai later. It's a woman. So I planted the creeper of love and silently watered it with my tears. Now it has grown and overspread my dwelling.
All right.
I like that
boy. That's You know what?
Love is a source of suffering for Asians.
I'm going to do something that I wasn't going to do, but I've been tempted to do it, and I brought it, and I've had this on here so long. I'm going to do it anyway. Now, this is a little bit longer one, but we have a whole hour. So this poem is called Motown Streets and Mountings Remembered.
Ooh.
This is a raunchy poem.
Okay.
Motown Streets and Mountings Remembered. An amatory epical epic. With a nod to Dylan Thomas, in my mind I wander lairs and apple bough-decked streets of young and easy yesteryears. On 16th Street, where I came up, 2 blocks due south of Ferry Park, was where I made young Yetta Yip and newfound pleasure in the dark.
You're grounded.
When we moved to Haverhill, way over on the northwest side, I laid Virgie, Joan, and Jill. Jill hoped one day to be my bride. I also boinked Juanetta there in my daddy's boozy bed. Plus Flora on the kitchen floor amid her cycle flowing red.
Shoot.
Gotta do that line again. Plus Flora on the kitchen floor.
Kids got no restraint, kids.
Amid her cycle flowing red. My mom found lipstick on the fly of my unwashed white undershorts. She then had Dad give me the tuck, which really put me out of sorts. Who was this girl, this naughty girl? My mom repeatedly would ask. I wouldn't tell her, though, because the girl was in her Sunday class. On stately Whitehill Street, one day. That's Hill, not British Hall, you know. I humped cute Katie on her couch. Then after that, I had to go. On Fairmount Court, sweet Adeline, oft indeed my fair mount there. Spied my borrowed car nearby in Debbie's Drive, my secret lair. She got extremely miffed with me and snapped, "You'd better stay away." But another night she called to proffer me another lay. She picked me up and drove across the bridge onto Belle-Isle. We copulated once or twice, then tarried there a while. One senior chick got frightened when her period came quite late. It was, thank God, a false alarm. It would have told our fate. She'd have lost her scholarship, and I'd have lost my track grant, too. We'd have bought some diapers then, instead of going away to school. 10 years later, now a teacher, I was still a horny creature. My pad had a revolving door on a rutting road called Mound, where married Mary came to come. On Mound Road, I rode her mound. My many maids there willingly got mounted and got rode, except when I was chilling or on penile overload. Those free and easy days gone by, under Dylan's apple bough, have lost their meaning through the years. Too frequently I feel I'm now a fucking ghost.
Oh, wow.
And you know, a prominent poet whom I asked, because that poem is coming out in a poetry book that I'm now about to release, called Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs. And it's about athletes, some great athletes that I knew and ran with and raced against and fought against and all that stuff. And it's about my activism, my lifelong social activism, but it's also about the ladies. So I asked this prominent poet, and she is the poet laureate of Flint, Michigan, as a matter of fact. I asked her, Samaj Brown, Dr. Samaj Brown, I asked her if she, because she said she did not think, even though I said in the book that I am a reformed philanderer. My first, my first 20 years of marriage to my first wife, I was a terrible cheat.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad about it, but I can't take it back.
Mm.
And she finally got fed up and divorced me, and then I married another young lady, African-American lady named Gina.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't cheat on her. Was married her 7 years, and then I married a wonderful principal in Detroit named Adrian, who died in January, and I'm still mourning her. But Samaj said, I don't think you really regret all of your transgressions. So I'm not going to, this is what I'm saying. And, in the book, I quote Samaj because, you got to completely reveal everything. So anyway, I that was kind of a longer poem.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of broke my rule that time. But I've been wanting to read that poem.
I'm glad you did. I actually prefer long form poetry, just because it delves into the psyche and the emotional connections that people have and flushes them out more.
Well, can you do a long one now?
Oh, sure.
Okay, do a long one.
Well,
how long is it going to be?
Maybe 5 minutes at the most.
Okay.
Because
we got to do a commercial in 5 minutes. So.
Okay, that's fine. In the spirit of things, I'll try to match the sentiment of that one. Once in a lifetime opportunities always come when you expect them least. At least that's what I believed. Twice upon a time, I was approached by half a pair of dimes, a paradoxical paradigm shift in serendipity. Shooting a trivial shot at triangulation through formation of an unholy trio. Ay, Dios mío. I'm just a humble Negro neo-griot, not a libido in Pinot Grigio pimp, to put simply. Was this truly meant to be? Seems I have the misfortune of being fortunate enough to test my fortitude against a resolute set of attitudes. Utilizing my brain's fourth quadrant to quantify the logic of saying no, I ignore a quantity of quasi-possibilities in lieu of a lewd liaison. Moving on to a non-sequitur segue. Cinco de Mayo fell on a Friday, and I fell in a furlough with the señorita too caliente to persist in psychoanalysis. This femme fatale quelled a quinary of queries with the persona made pentamerous. Polyamorous, amateur, messing with an ambidextrous professional pentameter I can't postulate. Obstinate, beauty squared, caught me bare, so I prepared. While being accepted by the warmth of the quadriceps intersection. I cast off caution. I was a tribal tribute, lost in the Bermuda Triangle, bifurcated her symmetry to entangle me and her bisexuality. Oral sounds lacking syntax as we climax. The seminal conclusion found in the center of their singularity.
All right.
I love how you conflate the rational with the passionate. That's just hilarious. Oh my God, I could totally see like a grid of love here.
That was R-rated without being R-rated.
Yes.
That was great.
That's what we have to do. Now, this one's really R-rated, and it's only a couplet. But I wrote this one in 1953 when I was a senior at Denby High School. I went to Northwestern, and then I was put out of Northwestern. I was an athlete there, but unfortunately I got into a bad altercation with an assistant principal and actually put him in the hospital. So I ended up living with my father. Got sent to live on the east side because I grew up in 16th and McGraw. So I got sent to the east side to live with my father. And I went into school because I had been expelled from school. So my father took me into a factory where he was working. It was a Keystone Metal Molding Company in East Detroit. And I had a mustache, and I was 16 years old, and I looked 21.
Wow.
So I was working in this factory. I was cleaning out a degreaser, and I used to get sick cleaning the degreaser. I had to go into this pit. But then I got promoted to a punch press. And when I got promoted to the punch press, I was starting to make a man's wages. The guy working right next to me had 3 kids, and I'm making the same wage he was making.
Wow.
And so my father used to take me over to the Cloverleaf Bar over on Gratiot. It's still there. My father used to take me there. We'd go in there and drink. Now, this is my 50-year-old father and 16-year-old me. We would go in there and drink.
Right.
And I met this waitress in there who was 23. And I started dating her because she didn't know how old I was.
Poor thing.
But then my mother came back to my father. And when she came back to my father, she said, no more boxing, because I was Golden Gloves then. She said, no, because my father's a professional boxer. She said, no more boxing, no more factory. He's going to get his butt in a high school. And I agreed with her when the guy next to me got his fingers cut off in a punch press.
Wow.
Because they didn't have the safety mechanism.
It's not the same guy with the 3 kids, is it?
Yeah, 3 or 4 kids.
That
he had.
was why you had that
And
impression.
it was his left hand. He was left-handed. It was a horrible situation. But anyway, I agreed with her when he got his fingers cut off. But this is a poem that I wrote the next year because she got me into Denby High School, and that was when I started breaking records again. I had broken records over at Northwestern. I started breaking records at Denby. And you know, when you are an athlete, and when you looked the way I looked, I mean, they're so.
You smoking.
You can't stay. I mean, the girls are all over the place.
Velcro.
Yeah, I mean, cheerleaders, non-cheerleaders, everybody.
I'm locking my boys up in the basement.
Yeah, that's what she got to do. She has 2 kids. They're both good-looking kids. One's only about this big right now, but the other one is almost 14 years old.
Oh wow!
And he looks like he's 20.
And he acts like he's 12.
And well, he'll be a sitting duck for these girls because they're going to be after him.
Such a quiet thing. It makes me nervous.
Real good-looking kid. Real good-looking kid. Anyway, this is a couplet, and then we're going back to our short poems again.
Okay.
This is a couplet. How are we on? Okay. This poem is called Virginia's Vagina.
Nice.
So different than Virginia Slim.
She was kind of slim, actually. Virginia's vagina was covered with hair, so long she could braid it and tie ribbons there. Now, actually, she didn't, but she could have. Okay, it's your turn.
Okay. Let me see. Actually, I do have a few haikus I wanted to go through.
Oh, good. Haikus are good.
Pretty simple.
Good. Haiku are good.
I hate.
I think haiku isn't haiku plural and singular?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Haiku. Yeah. Go ahead.
I hate all Mondays, unless it's a holiday. Weekends fit me best.
Okay, explain what a haiku is to our listeners.
So a haiku is a form of Japanese poetry that has 17 syllables. First line having 5, second line having 7, and the last line having 5.
That's right. And we're going to do some kind of a contest, aren't we? We're going to do it both for UCAC, that's United Communities Action Coalition, so we can get more young kids.
Yeah, but we need to pick your brain more about this because actually a couple months ago, Dr. Telfer came out with a haiku contest that could be done in Detroit Public Schools.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we were also talking about as being youth outreach for UCAC and other things, but also bringing literacy to a personal level, because kids are taught to write for other people, which is why they don't have any passion for it. You're never taught to write for yourself.
Right.
So teaching college so much, and it's been taught out of me too. But in anthropology, we do field notes, which is like you write to yourself about your own little dirty, gnarled up thoughts and stuff, and you kind of like try to come out and honest, because if you can't write on the page what you're thinking to yourself, it's never going to fruition and change. So I'm wondering if that's kind of like what poetry is like, and that's maybe why you wrote this book about, co-wrote this book with Dr. Thomas and
Galen Laird.
Yeah, about narcissistic personality disorders and how it kind of, coalesces between all these different characters, right? So I was wondering, what is this kind of, I guess, inspiration or tie between what you do with poetry and what you're doing with this book project?
Okay. Well, it speaks to what you just said about being unable to properly express yourself. The thing that we had discussed when we were writing the book is it's easy to talk about things, but also difficult. There are certain issues that we can talk about that are more comfortable for us and other issues that are less comfortable. And to write about these personal issues, to be so candid, kind of, it takes a lot. Being able to write poetry is, it helps. because you can express yourself in a myriad of ways,
Right.
and be fluid emotionally.
Absolutely.
So you take that kind of mentality going into a book that talks about something that is widespread, but people don't really know about, or people don't really talk about, and you just try to make it conversational and make it open for everybody to understand and relate to in a very simplistic but complex way.
Absolutely. Got a commercial.
Yes. And thank you. You're watching the John Telford Detroit Show live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please take time to like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us. And please, if you would like to advocate for Black-owned media stations in their programming, please come back to WJZZ and check out some of their other shows. Very, very amazing local artists and intellectuals coming to you with the real pulse of Detroit. And don't forget about Dig Thy Neighbor. It's a new jazz and poetry series coming out every Wednesday night after the 4th of July. We're starting July 8th. It's 5 to 10. It's at the Ralston Artist Compound on 19730 Ralston, which is also the address of this station.
Absolutely. And you know, we were talking about UCAC, but we didn't say what UCAC is. UCAC is United Communities Action Coalition. And Michael Doc Holbrook is the president of UCAC. And he and I went yesterday to meet with the mayor of Warren, Mayor Jim Fouts, because he wants to join UCAC.
Nice.
Because this is an organization that has as one of its major goals trying to get police in other communities where they've been mistreating black and brown people for generations to stop doing it. And Warren, Michigan has been one of the worst cities for that, maybe in the whole country. So that's why we chose, actually we approached the Warren mayor. He didn't approach us. And he says that he wants to join it now because he's a progressive mayor. You know, he's doing some things that will foster what the goal of UCAC is, United Communities Action Coalition. His name is Jim Fouts. We spoke with him extensively yesterday and with some of his people. And one of the things that we talked about with UCACs, Sunanda and I talked about, was that we want to get young people involved in UCACs, not just some old farts like me. You know, we want to get the young guys, the girls and boys, young folks in there. And one way that we can do that is by perhaps a haiku contest. We talked about doing a haiku contest. So I'll do a couple of haiku now, since we were talking about haiku. This is something in my poetic prancings of Mad John.
It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, right?
Yeah, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other places too.
And all proceeds from the selling of Dr. Telford's books go directly back into the production of his shows, both here and on 9:10 a.m.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, that's how I stay on the air, by selling my poetry, and it's kind of been tailing off because of the pandemic. But anyway, this poem, it's a poem. It's called Two Haiku. Two Haiku. And haiku is plural. So two haiku. Summer's radiance, dreams of green and golden tawn, murmurs of morning, purple grays of dusk, tell encroaching timelessness, white winter stillness. You got any more haiku?
Yes, I do. I really like that one, though.
You like that one?
Yeah, I like both of those. They give me a feeling of summer and winter, but in a very it's like, so summer's in the morning and winter's in the evening. I like those.
That's what I was trying to do.
Very quaint. I do like those. Okay.
You know what? After you do a haiku, though, I'm going to have her do a poem.
Okay.
And then the next poem, and then I'll do a poem. And then the next poem you do, I want it to be the one you did before that I liked.
Okay. All right.
I want to hear that one again.
No problem.
Okay, but right now do a haiku.
Okay. So I guess I'll do a nerdy one. You know what? No, I'll stick to it. Okay. Test me if you want. Pass or fail, I win, you lose. Success is my fate.
It's deep.
Mm.
This stuff is all deep. Now, of course, those poems, those haiku, are going to go in the book.
Yes, I'm looking forward to either putting some of these in here or doing some other ones. So
Okay.
I haven't made a decision just yet, but I do have more haikus that I didn't bring with
More
me.
haiku.
Yeah.
More haiku.
I'm sorry, more haiku.
More haiku.
That I didn't-
I'm an English teacher.
Yeah.
I've always been an English teacher. In fact, I'm teaching it again at
Mhm.
Southeastern High School in the fall. I'm going back.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stay away from the classroom.
It's the best place to be.
A poem from Dr. Sunanda Corrado that she did not write herself.
No, I
but
did not
is
write.
one of her favorite authors and poets.
Oh, well, this one is actually coming from a Kashmiri saint, and this is about cheating. So a lot of the times they have poems about love and beauty and cheating, but this is also about the connection we make with reality. How much you love somebody is also your ability to transcend, love God. So it's all supernatural. Loving a person is loving God kind of idea.
Okay.
So then what happens when you're cheating, right?
Ooh.
So, of course, it's nicely gilded. It's very old, right? It's a Kashmiri saint. So, it's called Why Do You Dote? Why do you dote upon someone, my soul, who is not your true love? Why have you taken the false for the true? Why can't you understand? Why can't you know? It is ignorance that binds you to the false, to the ever-recurring wheel of birth and death, this coming and going of yours.
That was that. Who was the author?
It's Lalavak.
Who is that?
Lalavak is a Kashmiri saint. I think this might be from the 13th century. We're trying to figure out what the cadence is. And of course, it's a complete translation. But it also goes to show that, because we were talking about these other aspirations, but how other people's lives kind of revolve around your secrets, even if you don't see that.
Yes.
And that's
very
with
true.
narcissism, too.
Very much so.
The more secrets you keep, the more you become the centripetal force for confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my turn. Now back down to earth again. In fact, on Claremont Street.
Here we go. What happened there?
This was way back in 1954. On Claremont, west of 12th Street, is the title of this poem. On a hot midsummer Sunday, I rode the bus to see my teammate Clifford Hatcher and his then wife Jean. Now this was the great Cliff Hatcher. He and I were teammates at Wayne State when we won the mile relay at the Penn Relays, the mile relay at the Ohio Relays, beat Michigan State, little Wayne State doing this. Because he had run a 48 quarter mile at Central High School in 1951, which was the fastest time ever run in the state. And that year, I was just starting to blossom into a world-ranked quarter miler. And we also had a fellow named Ralph Carter, who later taught at Syracuse. No, he taught at Rutgers. And he was a Marine Corps quarter mile champion. And Bullet Billy Smith, who held the world record in the hurdles. So that was our relay team, Little Wayne. They were afraid of us when we came. We were beating Villanova and everybody. But anyhow, I'm going to start over. On a hot midsummer Sunday, I rode the bus to see my teammate Clifford Hatcher and his then wife Jean. On that well-remembered morning, it was 1954. I took that bus to Claremont Street because I had no car. I disembarked at Claremont by the corner of Old 12th, where a pretty teenage prostitute solicited myself. When I told her I had zero cash, she said she'd give for free some crazy, wild loving just for fun and just for me. But I made this true excuse. My friends are waiting there for me. And I said it would be wrong for me to be an hour late. She cursed me then and swore, "You'll never get another date." I repeated quite politely that no way should I be late. She continued cursing at me all the way up Claremont Street. Cliff and Jean stood on their porch, just cracking up and laughing, a reaction that I found to be embarrassingly baffling. And I still, at the time, I'm saying to myself, what is this pretty young girl? She couldn't have been more than 16 years old. Piddling her body on the street. There's got to be some reason why that should not have to happen. And I thought that even then, this just isn't quite right, Anyway, okay, your turn.
Did you want to hear the?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I'll give you that one more time.
Yep.
Firefighter father figure burned alive by co-conspirators. Death made the news with no convictions. Victory denied for the family of the victim.
Okay, now, you were real close to the mic.
Mm-hmm.
Do it again, even closer to the mic and a little louder.
Okay.
I want to hear that one again. That is a great poem. A great poem.
Firefighter father figure burned alive by co-conspirators. Death made the news with no convictions. Victory denied for the family of the victim.
Man, that's going to the book, right?
Hopefully, yes.
Hopefully?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I might find one better. I might find one more poignant. I might run out of space, but as of right now, it's definitely on the mark to go in there.
Okay. I'm not buying the book. The poem's on. Okay, my turn. Yeah, we got time. This is a short one. The Great Gray Ghost. Because, you know, some of these poems have never been published, and this one is going into my Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs poetry book that is prospective. It'll be coming out pretty soon. The Great Gray Ghost. Now, the Great Gray Ghost was actually probably the greatest, fastest sprinter who ever lived. And he came out of my high school because I attended two high schools in Detroit. The first one was Detroit Northwestern High School. And this guy came out of Detroit Northwestern High School. And at the time he came out, he was 18 years old, 1961, but this was in 1960. And his coach brought him over to me because I was coaching track at Detroit Southeastern High School across town in 1960. And his coach, this sprinter's name was Henry Carr. And his coach brought him to me to work with his finish and train him to run the quarter mile because he thought that would make him stronger at the end of a 220-yard race. So I worked with this kid, and at this time, I was world ranked in the quarter mile and in the 220. I was ranked number 9 in the 220, and I had been ranked between 1 and 2 in the quarter mile. Although this was 1960, so I was making a comeback. I was 24 years old. He was 17 years old. And I'm taking workouts with this kid, and we're doing 220-yard straightaways. And I said, "Come on, let's do some in about 22 seconds." I said, "Okay." He's got his sweat clothes on. We're doing these 220-yard races. They were sort of races in 21, 22, 23 seconds. You know, we'd run down, walk back, run down, walk back. And I'm looking at this kid, and I'm world ranked now at 220 yards, and this is a 17-year-old kid. I couldn't keep up with him. I said, "There's something very strange about this kid." So, to make a long story short, he ended up running the quarter mile because I trained him for the quarter mile. He ran the quarter mile 47 and 8/10 seconds on an old dirt track in high school, which when the world record was 46 and 2/10 seconds, so he was close. And he ran the 220-yard race in 20.6 seconds, which was 1/10 of a second faster than Jesse Owens had won in the Olympics. And he took 1/10 of a second off Jesse Owens' national high school record when he did that. So I went down to my old football coach, whom I never really got along with as a coach I had at Denby. But he was the athletic director at Detroit Public Schools at the time. And I said, "Coach, I want to take Henry to the Olympic trials because I've qualified in the 400 and he's qualified in the 200 and I want to take him." "Can't." "Why not?" 25-mile radius. He'll be ineligible next year, his senior year. "You mean to tell me you're going to make the Olympic champion ineligible?" What have you been smoking,
Olympic is amateur,
John?
right?
Yeah.
Not an amateur competition.
And Coach Stout said to me, "What have you been smoking? This kid is not going to win the Olympics." I said, "Oh, yes, he is. If I take him to the trials, he's going to win the trials, and he's going to win the games." Nope, he can't go. So I went to Mr. Carr's father, and I went to Henry Carr's father. I said, "Mr. Carr, can Henry, I'm driving out to the Olympic trials. I've qualified, so is Henry. Can I take him with me?" what does athletic director Stout say? He says he can't go. Then I have to say he can't go. So he didn't go. And then the next year, as a senior at Northwestern High School, and I know I'm digressing, but the next year as a senior at Northwestern High School, this kid tied the world 220-yard dash record as a high school senior. There's one other sprinter in history who ever did that. And he did it at 100 yards, and his name was Jesse Owens. So what does Henry do 3 years later for Arizona State? He wins the Olympic championship in world record time.
And you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please take time to like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us. And don't forget, Dig Thy Neighbor. It's a new jazz and poetry series presented to you every Wednesday night from 5 to 10 p.m. at the Ralston Artist Compound. That's 19730 Ralston. It's right on the corner of 7 Mile and Woodward, one of your few remaining Black-owned media station platforms. And we're here today with Mr. Nigel Jennings, and we've got about 4 minutes left. How should we do this? And we'd like to know where the public can see you and how to contact you and what else you're doing.
We got 14 minutes
left. 9 minutes left because we're done five before.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I was talking about the great gray ghost, Henry Carr. They called him the Gray Ghost because Northwestern's colors were gray and red. That's why they called him the Gray Ghost. And here is the poem about Henry. Oh, incidentally, when Henry Carr went to the Olympics and won the 200 meters, he didn't just run the 200 meters. He ran 400 meters on the 4x400 relay team, and his relay carry was faster than the Olympic 400-meter champions carry on that same relay team. That was Mike Larrabee from California, whom I had beaten, by the way. This was 1964.
You beat everybody back then.
Well, I did, actually.
You did. You're one of the fastest men on the planet.
I beat Charlie Jenkins 3 out of 4, and the fourth time wasn't the Olympic distance. He was the Olympic champion from Villanova, and I beat Mike Larrabee. And I also... Anyway, I also beat the 200-meter champion. That was Livio Berruti, and Henry Carr would have won in 1960. Livio Berruti won in 1960 from Italy. Henry Carr would have won. He would have beaten Livio Berruti. Anyway, here's the and he was running on dirt tracks too. You know, he was running 22nd to 220 yards on dirt track. That's 19 seconds on a rubber track. So he would probably have beaten Usain Bolt. Is what I'm saying. I think he probably was Henry Carr, for sheer speed, was the fastest human being who ever ran. He was 6 feet 3 3/4 inches, 198 pounds, looked like Secretariat. He was unbelievable. Anyway, here's the poem about Henry Carr. Hannibal and Balthazar cast him stardust from a star. He was famed from near and far. Olympic sprinter, Henry Carr. The track and field group, the Detroit Track and Field Old Timers that I founded.
Yes.
We honored him just before he died.
And it's a network of parochial and public schools, right, that still nurture track teams and other, and sports is such a base for leadership, especially for men in the city. Yes. And it's astounding that sports and arts are taken away where we really show that we're limitless.
This kid looks like a sprinter. You ever run?
I did.
Where?
Actually, I ran mostly in middle school, and I was a sprinter. I ran the 200, 200 hurdle, and the 100.
Yeah, I did that too. I ran the Detroit had a weird distance, 120-yard low hurdles. I ran those. Yeah. But I didn't, and I long jumped. Oh. You ever long jump?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I tried for the long jump. I did pretty well with that, and the high jump, which I was not the form.
I couldn't high jump. I couldn't. But long jump, I think I sold the Denby record. For a long time. But anyway, it is your turn again.
Okay.
But before you go on with the poem, I want to see if you could tell the audience when we can see you, when you perform, do you teach?
Okay, yeah.
How do we interact with you, sir?
Well, I have an Instagram. My Instagram is pretty long. But it is Urban Legend Obasaki. Urban _ legend, and it's spelled LEGIND, and another underscore, and it's Obasaki, and that's OBASAKI.
Okay, say it all again.
Urban Legend Obasaki, which is also my stage name.
Spell it out. Spell it out.
Okay. Urban _ legend LEGIND _ Obasaki OBASAKI. That's my Instagram. I also have a website, tcreaderslounge.net. There we host a lot of different authors' works. It's typically their first work. So if you're if you're a published author and it's your first work, we like to host those works and give it some publicity. I also have a food blog that I'm starting. I've already done a few reviews of some local places around the city that I like. And my Instagram is basically just pictures of murals and art that I see around the city. And I like to showcase Detroit in a more positive light. So often do we hear about the things that are negative about the city.
Yes.
And what I do is I go around the city and I look for graffiti or murals, and I take pictures of it because people see graffiti as something that is a blight upon the city. But in actuality, it's beautiful independent art. So I like to showcase it.
Amen. Okay. So now why don't you do a poem?
Oh. Did you want me to do it? You wanted to do one? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you do a poem. We haven't.
darn
We're running out of time. You have done your poem.
So this is by Lindemann. The note that is played whispers at night. The sound that surrenders quickens to light.
Okay. Now who wrote that?
Lindemann, S.K. Lindemann.
Who is that?
Isn't he German?
Swedish,
It's kind of like
Swedish.
Is that it kind of reminds me of nothing like E.E. Cummings, but a lot of times reminds me of E.E. Cummings, just the way he uses the page.
Okay.
Yeah, so he uses the page with his words.
The poet with no capital letters in his name.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
Now it's your turn.
Okay. I'll go. So speaking about food, ducks don't bow their head to geese. They're the ones you look at because you came to see if they taste better when it's time to eat. Savor turkey as the fowl flavor, though you favor chicken as a meat.
All right. Okay, my turn. This one I call Peace on Earth. Peace on Earth. I got time?
Yeah.
Dude? Okay. Hawks in Congress feast on war. Cash is what they angle for. Even for such recompense, nuclear warfare makes no sense. I'm for peace and pacifism. War is an anachronism. Okay, Nigel, it's your turn again.
Okay. Gonna stay with the food metaphors or the food thing. Cheese toast. The breakfast of champions. Grilled cheese, my brunch's companion. Chicken grilled to my lunch's perfection. Fried chicken, the superior supper selection. Mac and fries, a creamy dairy delight, concocted as dinner to satiate my appetite.
It didn't quite scan, but it was a good poem.
How come talking
But he
about
doesn't care
food
if
is so
it scans.
dangerous?
You don't always care if it scans, do you?
No, not all the time.
Yeah, and you don't really have to care if it scans. See, I'm kind of uptight in that way. If my poetry doesn't scan, I don't sleep at night. So it has to scan. Even if it doesn't rhyme, it has to scan. You know, and this one scans, but it doesn't rhyme. This one is called Blue. I have time. It's a short one.
We got 1 minute left.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do it real fast. Blue salt. My name is Detroit. I'm a blue-collar town. Blue salt melts my mid-March snow. Speedy cars and sprinters spring from me. I father fierce fighters and funky music. In a Motown moment, I can spit the blues right back in a bureaucrat's eye. Have you never seen blue salt? No complex chemistry here. Only the old color of a new sky. So on that note, what's next, Sananda?
Well, I was wondering, do we want to end with a poem with you, or
We want
You
to
wanna
end
do
with
the
a poem with our
shout-out?
guest,
Okay.
if we got time.
Mr. Nigel Jennings?
I'll do a short one. Bottom line is, companies got to protect their bottom line. We're all expendable when it comes to expanding dough.
Right. Okay.
Wow. I think I like that one. Maybe just because I'm cynical. I loved all of them because they were beautiful, but that was just truly cynical. That was cutting. That was cutting. And dough for food versus. I just love your contrast. But anyway, don't forget Dig Thy Neighbor Jazz Poetry every Wednesday night, coming to you from 5 to 10 at Ralston Artist Compound. Mr. Nigel Jennings might just be there. He is part of our WJZZ family. We love him to death. And so you have been listening to the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford and me, your co-host, Sananda Samadar, on WJZZ Cool Jazz TV on Thursdays from 10 to 11 a.m. In the morning, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It was the late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer who said, Dr. John Telford has a warrior's heart and a poet's soul. Listen also to Dr. Telford on WCHB AM 1340, Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. Tune in again next week, next Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, and thank you for listening to the John Telford